You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody! The Hunger Games Part 2 Catching Fire is out in theaters, and you know what that means?
Another episode of Don't F with the Original.
That's right, I'm Dimitri, Editor-in-Chief of Idiomatic and Movie Critic.
And I'm Nicholas, video game correspondent for Idiomatic.com.
Yes, and now you might expect us to review the first Hunger Games, but since everyone's been bitching and whining about the Hunger Games ripping off another movie, we thought, why not take a look at that movie?
Yeah.
See if that's true.
Exactly.
So, for that reason, we are reviewing
The Running Man, right?
Actually, no, because we have one that's actually closer in premise than that. Because The Running Man, for those of you who don't know, Stephen King's story about a bunch of people stuck in a deadly game like the Hunger Games, but there are convicts.
Yes.
This one actually has children as well.
Indeed.
Japanese movie by the name of Battle Royale.
Yes.
2000, right?
I think it's 2000.
Excellent, then.
We'll check afterwards, because that's when we do our homework.
Exactly. We're in a future where the kids have grown terribly disrespectful of the adults in Japan, by which I mean they're still way more polite than North American kids are. Like,
yeah.
That made me laugh a little bit.
Pretty much.
And so the government has instituted a new law, which is the Battle Royale Act, where they'll send a class of children, it's randomly selected, onto an island to play a deadly game where they have to kill one another until only one survives.
Yes.
A little bit crazy. I'm not sure that would help in reality, but that's the premise. We then follow those kids as they try to survive on the island and live out some of their high school drama. You meet a lot of the characters, and almost saying more about the characters beforehand as part of the synopsis, I think would almost be spoilerish. Because you discover them through flashback as they're fighting for survival.
I know, even if it's in Japan, though, you still recognize like the drama that you saw and maybe lived through as well as when you were in high school. So even without them presenting the characters per se, you still kind of recognize situations. They don't have to say as much. You can still kind of say, oh, this is what's happening right there. And, you can totally see what's happening. And I think that's why, you can really relate to that movie. It's like, yeah, I've been there. I've seen that.
Oh, yeah. It's a great representation of what happens in high school.
But I've been there, seen that. Not on an island killing people, but in high school is what we mean.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. The key of that movie is really that it's creating this sort of post-apocalyptic violent context for essentially a high school drama. It really is the same conflicts you would find anywhere else, except that it's played out with bloodshed.
Yeah. They're given weapons and free range to use them, and they have to use them because only one can survive after 3 days. So, they have to pretty much push the violence and, you live the drama to its end.
Yeah, and you have the Queen Bee, who's the most deadly of them all, which in high school is also true.
Yeah.
You've got the nerd kids ganging up together to sort of beat the game in a different way. I guess I shouldn't spoil how.
No, you should. You should.
And you've got two lovers who don't want to hurt each other. You've got
the group of, girls that just, cool girls that just hang out together and, they don't worry about anything else. We're just, we're together, we're all good, we're safe, it's fine.
Yeah, and it only takes one misstep for the whole thing to implode, which is also true of real life.
Yeah.
It's the weird thing about dynamics in high school is that we all get along, but we don't trust each other. We feel the hurt really readily,
Yeah, it's true.
You have kids who are in love with other kids who are in love with other kids. You got love triangles and whatnot. Also true of high school. And everything plays out in terms of the order of the death as you would see the social hierarchy of a high school play out in terms of who gets crushed in the social hierarchy of a high school. How somebody falls and loses status, loses focus, and all of that in the same.
Is that why the fat kid dies first?
Yes, it is why the fat kid dies first.
Interesting. Okay.
It's a really interesting idea. You also have two exchange students. They made me laugh.
Yeah, who were basically not really from that class that was chosen. One of them just volunteered for kicks.
Yeah.
And the other one was a winner from a couple of years ago that they bring back.
Yeah.
No, I'm not quite sure why, but
I think he lied. I think he volunteered because at the end, the teacher said like, "Oh, that's why you came back. You wanted to avenge your girlfriend."
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, didn't get that, but you're right. Now that I see that, completely makes sense.
I like the movie a lot.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good movie. Very happy I saw it. It's not one of those movies that I saw it. I'm gonna forget it a couple of days. It was really had some really striking images that I'm gonna remember. They're gonna stay with me. It was well filmed. I'm not a super fan of the gore, but it was at an acceptable level. That okay, you still have to unfortunately see teenagers die, but that's the movie, and it's not like at Saw levels of gore.
No. It is really just there to emphasize the satirical effect of their premise. It's, look, this is how much kids hurt each other, presented in a physical way. It doesn't linger on it.
Yeah, that's true.
I also dig just the idea of why they're being out there, because there is sort of a message being sent, vehiculated, and that's what I like about movies. They don't just present you a premise, they present you with a point.
Yeah.
And here is really the idea of an adulthood, a school system that's sort of given up on helping the kids. It's sort of like, as long as you succeed, i.e. being the last survivor, that's all we care about. But in terms of educating you, oh, well, you're all savages, you're all barbarians. I wash my hands of you, go kill each other, and that's it. It's really an education system that's given up on the kids. And you start with that premise, and you're like, "Oh, the kids are going to be awful." And you're like, you meet the kids, it's like, no, they're really nice. They're loyal to each other. There's very few backstabbings in there. It's really misunderstandings and panic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they're good kids.
Yeah. And you're right when you describe that as the school system. You can think, okay, maybe it's just in Japan, but even in the U.S. where they basically have to teach for the test, they have to basically standardize tests. We're going to teach you if you pass the test, good, I've done my job. Did you learn anything? I don't care. Did you pass the test? If you pass the test, that's the important thing. Just memorize what answers you need to answer, and if you're done, it's great.
Yeah. And even beyond just getting the actual information in terms of education, in terms of social education, kids are left on their own. It's like, oh, there's bullying in our schools. There's like, why aren't there bullying in our schools? Because a lot of times the administration doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah, because it's not their job.
Exactly, and that's the idea, I think. Yeah.
Well, it's so much deeper than I just thought, but yeah, you're right. This movie is really profound when you think about it. I just watched it. I was thinking about mostly the relationship between high school students like that, but when you talk about the education system like that, you're completely right. Is there a reason why they brought back an old teacher of them to be the host of the games, or is it just?
I think so. I think it's the idea that this is a teacher that's given up on the world. You learn a little bit more about his personal life, and he's being rejected by his own children, by his own family. He's disconnected from the world, and I think it's the idea that the system eventually wears these teachers down. And they give up on the kids, and when they give up on the kids are left to fend on their own.
Yeah. What else did I not understand about this movie?
Okay, there's one plot line I really want to talk about because I like that plot line. One of the two kids that are exchange students is actually a pretty nice kid.
Yeah.
And he tells the story of surviving the previous games and tells the story of how he was the last survivor with his girlfriend, and then they had to shoot each other because there can only be one winner or no winner at all.
Yeah.
And then he kills her and she smiles, and he's trying to figure out why she smiled. Did you ever figure out the answer to that riddle?
I thought from the beginning when she smiled, she's happy because at least somebody she loves gets to live, and she happy that he gets to live on at least. What they say, I think that when they propose explanation is that she was happy that she was able to love a guy like him as well, which also kind of makes sense. She's happy that she was able to love him. What do you think it was?
I think she shot him so that he would shoot back.
Yeah, that's what I thought exactly as well. That's why she smiles, because by shooting him, he gets to shoot her and she dies, so he gets to live, and that's exactly what I thought happened right there.
Yeah, so okay, so it is, and I find it interesting that we had to sort of interpret it, but we came to the same conclusion. So that means the movie's pretty clear about it, but they never freaking outright say it.
Which is what I like. I like movies that don't insult your intelligence by spelling out everything. Okay, if he had said at the end, "Oh, this is why she smiled. She smiled because blah blah," I would have like, no, okay, you just lost me there. But yeah, I like it when it's open to interpretation, and other people can watch it and have different interpretation of that too. It's all good. There's no wrong. There are certain wrong answers. She smiled because she wanted chocolate. It's probably not the right interpretation. But, as long as it's kind of coherent and there's no real bad interpretation of it, which is what I like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right. Well, I'm just start with a little nitpick. I'm not quite sure how that Battle Royale thing is supposed to work, how it's supposed to, scare the students straight or whatever. The Battle Royale thing, since they pick a class at random, and that's supposed to scare all the students in Japan straight. I'm not quite sure how that happens, because even if they are good students, they can be picked anyway.
Yeah.
So how is that system supposed to work? And again, this is another movie where I would like to just be there sitting, seeing the proceedings of, that law being voted in Congress or however it is in Japan. Like it's like in The Purge or, I want to see that law being passed and see who voted for what were the reasons for them voting for it. That would be a movie unto itself. I would be fascinated to watch that.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. In real life, there would be riots. There's no way you can pass something like that. It's crazy. Yeah. I think the idea, though, in terms of at least the metaphor, is that if the kids are bad enough, the BR Act is enacted and they choose a random class. If the entire school is good enough and the students are well behaved enough, they won't do a BR stunt.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. But once you do a BR stunt, everybody's up for grabs.
Okay, that makes sense.
And in terms of the metaphor, I think what it's communicating is that, when things are going wrong, instead of doubling down and trying to figure out what the problem is, they just give up.
Yeah. Just try and get rid of the problem by, getting rid of the problem literally, trying to get rid of the cause of the problem, exterminating it, which, not the best solution,
Yeah. The kids are bad. Oh, it's the kids' fault. The kids are on their own. They can kill each other.
Yeah.
As opposed to the kids are bad. What is it that we can do so that they're not bad?
Yeah. Often, if kids are bad, it usually comes with, raising them in education. So, you're part of the problem if the kids are bad, unfortunately.
Well, if they're bad as a mass, definitely. Like you can have one bad kid and it's nobody's fault except that kid's. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. But if they're all bad, there's something in the institution, there's something in the society. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
One of the things I didn't like is the music. I thought the music was a little bit melodramatic. It was like, ooh, that's a lot.
Yes, you're right. Well, I don't, it sounds ridiculous, but when I know there's a soundtrack, it means it's not a good soundtrack. When, it really, falls on my ear and it's like I keep noticing it too much. It's like, wow, this is a terrible soundtrack. I like soundtracks that kind of flow with the movie. Yeah. That I barely get to notice. That it just adds, kind of subconsciously added to the mood of the movie. And this is like, I keep hearing the music and it's bugging me.
I agree completely with you. With some caveats, I think soundtracks that I will notice often will allow me to anticipate a certain feeling. And that's the filmmaker's intention. So if I think about, for example, the Batman Begins soundtrack, I heard it. I noticed it. Because it's a Christopher Nolan movie. It's hard not to to hear the soundtrack. But the soundtrack was communicating the feeling of something's coming. It's heading towards something. And I kept going oh, it's going to be Batman. I want Batman. And it's when it drives that feeling that way, it's okay. But when it pulls you to tell you what you've already seen is when I hate it. And Battle Royale had a few instances of kids getting shot down. The music is going this is dramatic. And you're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. You see the corpses of the 7 kids down there. Yeah, it's pretty sad. You don't need to. No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So nitpick there. That's one.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
I'm not sure we needed the opening scene where they pick up one of the survivors of the games and she's clearly gone nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess we know because we know what the Hunger Games are, so we kind of know what what it is to expect.
Mm.
Maybe if this is one of the first of its time, you're not quite sure what it is, and like the winner is a girl, you know, and you're like, the winner of what, and why is she smiling maniacally? Maybe that would have been more effective if we didn't know exactly what the Hunger Games were, or in this case, the Battle Royale, because we kind of guessed, because we were told it's a ripoff of Hunger Games, or
That's true.
so and so, the other way around, I guess.
I actually thought it was like the final scene of the movie being presented at the front of the movie, like they often do.
Yeah.
And so I kept looking for that girl throughout the movie, and my memory's not great. And, well, you know.
I know. And I don't want to, you know, they're Japanese schoolgirls, so their haircuts are very similar. So I thought it was one of the girls, like in the couple. I thought it was the girl of the couple there that was a survivor. Except she was carrying a doll, and I don't remember her having a doll. So it was like.
And her facial features are a little bit closer to the runner.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, it's going to be the runner.
Yeah.
Or that one. I don't remember anymore.
And especially when the guy told that, you know, he had to shoot his girlfriend, and now is she gonna have to shoot the boyfriend? It's like, I was kept waiting for that the whole movie, and it's like, yeah, that scene at the beginning bothered me, because, like I said, I like to, you know, think and anticipate, and so I was like, okay, since I saw this, what can I anticipate from the movie? At one point, it's like, I just forget that scene and just watch the movie and stop thinking about it, damn it.
And one of the things you sort of danced around, and I understand why you did, it made me feel racist, because I was like, at one point, I couldn't identify the girl, and I just gave up and going like, oh crap, I guess they all look alike to me. Oh, I'm a terrible person.
Well, the thing is, they are kind of meant... especially for us, I mean, let's face it, we're Westerners.
Yeah.
Especially for me, poor white person here. And they're first of all, they're schoolgirls, so they're all dressed the same. Mm-hmm. They all pretty much have this, you know, roughly the same haircut.
Yeah, they pretty much do.
So all you have to do to differentiate them is like the face.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
which we don't see clearly because her hair is all messed up.
And everybody's hair is in their face as well. The only one that you really recognize is like, you know, the Queen Bee one. Because she dressed differently. She decided, you know, I'm going to really be in the game. So she puts on jeans and a t-shirt and, you know, I'm going to be really... So I could tell her apart. Yeah. The other ones that kept their schoolgirl uniform, it's like, you girls all look the same to me. I'm sorry. I'm really trying not to be racist here, but you all look the same.
Which, to a certain degree, it's not even true because we can tell them apart. Yeah. We just couldn't figure out who the survivor was amongst them. It's because it's none of them. Yeah.
And actually, it was just for the girls, because the guys, for some reason, I could make, you know, the nerd crew, could totally recognize them. And, you know, it's like when it was a new guy, it's like, hey, you're new. I haven't seen you. And it's like, oh, you're the guy with the scanner. So I guess it was just the girls because the hairs were so similar, and you know, it's just
the hair. One thing about Japan, like I've been in Tokyo, and the men have fancier hair than women in Japan.
Okay.
And and that's what it comes down to. They had different haircuts, the guys, whereas the girls did not.
Yeah, I know. One of the guy that volunteered, not the nice guy, but the other guy that just wanted to, you know, kill people and volunteers. Like, wow, Goku, what the hell's happening here? You know, he's like. Here's an anti-nitpick, a scene I found, like, hilarious. Okay. It's, like the guy that volunteered to show up, and he chooses, you know, like, I want this bag, you know. He's, like, really picky about the bag he gets, and in every bag you get, like, a weapon. It's different for everybody. And in his bag, he had a fan. And I cracked up. This guy volunteered to be here, and what he gets as a weapon is a fan. And you could look, he was really, because he was surrounded by a bunch of kids that actually had real weapons, and you could see he was pissed. And I cracked up so much at that scene, it was like, wow.
Wait, I thought it was the other volunteer that changed bags, though.
No, it was him. It's like, you know, I volunteered for this game, I want this one. And he grabbed that, you know, he's like, he didn't want that one, he wanted that bag. And he's like,
it's a fan.
It's a fan. It's like, wow.
Actually, the bogus weapons were pretty funny all around. Like, one of them gets, like, a pot lid. Yeah. So that was awesome.
Can be used as a shield. You know.
He does. He actually uses it and actually saves his life. Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, the bogus weapons were really funny. I was like, what is this? Completely ridiculous. And
binoculars. Like, what are you going to do with that?
Those could be useful if you were not in a jungle the whole time, you know, and that your side blocked every 10 meters. You could do stuff with binoculars.
Sure. Okay, well, while we're talking about the scenes that I like the instructional video telling them what the Battle Royale is,
Yeah.
as if it was like an instructional video for any kid's activity, with this super chipper, almost condescending little cartoon-like woman just going like, and if you do this, oops, you're gonna go boom!
Yeah. And also the teacher that's participating with her and he's answering like, hi, how are you? The teacher and everybody's like traumatized and the teacher's like, all participating in the instructional video. Like, wow.
I liked also that, honestly, I really wasn't sure throughout the movie who would make it to the end, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah. I also was not sure about the role of the nerd crew, you know, that they decide to try and beat the game instead of, winning the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are they planning? And it was like really interesting. And when it happens, you're like, oh, this is really cool. We're not going to say what happens because you need to watch that movie. But it's just like, oh, wow, that's pretty clever. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's because they really flesh out all of the characters. Like, there's 40 kids, and you get to know a good 10 or 15 well enough that you think they have a shot at survival, that they're not less important than, the other set of kids or whatnot. Like, there's the girl that runs a lot, who, by the way, I like the symbolism of, like, the one person she kills is a good boy who has a crush on her and doesn't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And she rejects him in a really, really harsh way and then emasculates him, and it's like, wow, that's symbolism with a capital S there.
Wow, yep, indeed.
But and the guy that she has a crush on, also this really likable character with a full, very complex personality.
Yeah.
Like, you watch this, you watch the couple that you see a lot, and you watch the nerds.
You watch the guy with the scanner that was roaming the island trying to find
that's the guy
people.
I was talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, you see all of them, it's like, oh, they're all good guys, and I like them all, and they're all really well fleshed out. Any of them could make it.
Even when you meet the group of girls that are just hanging out together and they don't give a damn about the game, and even one mentions what happens tomorrow. It's like, don't think about that. It's ridiculous. You're thinking, what's their role going to be? Because they seem so nice and chipper, and you're like, it's interesting. It's nice to have like a movie like that where you're not sure who's going to win, as opposed to The Running Man, where who the hell thought Arnold was not going to beat the game.
Yeah.
Or even Hunger Games, where the main character.
Hunger Games, Katniss has to make it. The question when you watch the movie or read the book is whether anyone else will make it with her.
Okay. All right, so they find another way of doing that, I guess.
Yeah, so I like Battle Royale for that aspect. You don't know where it's going. You really don't know. And then, they open up some possibilities where at one point you realize, wait, maybe the rules have changed. Maybe more than one person can make it at the end. And does that mean that a lot more people are candidates or not?
Yeah.
And that's the great twist, because then, anybody you were banking on being the main character, suddenly it's all up for grabs.
Oh, other weird nitpick.
Yeah.
Let's go back to those.
Yep.
They're all surprised about this Battle Royale thing when they don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. If the program is, the Battle Royale is supposed to calm the kids and, make them more docile, shouldn't they know about it for it to be effective?
But I think that's on purpose, though. I think it's to demonstrate that there is a disconnect in the way the kids are living. That they are not prepared for the adult world, that they are sort of oblivious to what's going on.
That is so interesting. Thank you. Wow. You're teaching me so much about this movie, making me like it more and more. Wow. This is so scary. So should we talk about did the Hunger Games rip it off?
Yeah, that's the big question. Did the Hunger Games rip it off? What do you think?
Well, just, I haven't seen the Hunger Games, but from what I understand, they take, like, students from different districts that don't know each other, a boy and a girl, but, from different districts. Whereas, Battle Royale, it's all one classroom of students that know each other. You don't know them yourself, but they already have their interactions between each other, their relationships and stuff like that. So I think it makes it so much better than just grabbing a bunch of kids and go and fight, You already have that complexity there that's not present in the Hunger Games. So already there, you can see one level of difference.
Yeah. Going on what you said, I think that is one of really the key difference here is, yeah, like you said, these kids already know each other and they play out the dramas that they had already built before the Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Hunger Games, they're all on the same side in the sense of they're all under an oppressive regime and they just want to make it to the end. So they're all in it for themselves, but none of them are in a position to create alliances. And they all hate the capital, you know?
Yeah.
And the idea here is there's one kid, Peta, who starts breaking the rules by making genuine alliances. And she's like, you're messing with me. No, you're going to backstab me at the end, because that's what the kids do. I've seen it on TV with the previous Hunger Games. And the idea is to represent a different dynamic where it's like when you don't know anyone and you have to work with other people to survive because you're not well equipped to kill 23 other kids. What do? How do you trust? What's the dynamic? It's a story about like how do you establish trust with other people in a situation like that? It's a completely different angle. I don't think either is inferior to the other, but it's sort of to demonstrate that really anybody who says it's a ripoff, these are completely different stories.
For like, you know, I'm never going to be trusted in that situation because, you know, I'm past high school. But, you know, having been in there, you know, just going back to my high school days, I could totally see myself, you know, being with my friends and completely trusting them and knowing that, you know, they would not backstab me at least until we were the last Final Four, you know. Yeah. But they would not, you know, backstab me because, you know, I like them. You know, we played D&D every night. We trusted each other. It was fun. I know it could be safe with them, even if they had gun and I had a fan. They would not. They would not go against me because, you know, we were really tight. Whereas, you know, in a situation like that in Hunger Games where you're just trusted with like 23 other strangers and you're like, "Hi, I want to be your friend." You know, it's completely different dynamics, like you say. You know, I don't make friends easy. So when I make friends, you know, they tend to be very good friends because I was able to create, you know, good bonds with them. So one would be completely different than the other for me. So yeah, I don't see why it's a ripoff. It basically on the same concept of, you know, kids fighting.
Basic same premise, absolutely.
Same premise, yes. But, you know, you can go on the same premise and as, you know, you can make it go in a different direction or improve on it or make it better. That doesn't mean you're a ripoff. You know, you can build on the same thing and achieve something completely different.
I agree completely. I don't think it's anything alike. And the message, like the core message of it, because we talked about the tact, the approach. One's about living out the dramas that you're familiar with. The other one is into placing you into a situation where why would you trust the others and what would you do in that situation? So already the approach is different, but the message is also different. Like I said, Battle Royale for me is totally about a system that's given up on the kids. And whereas the Hunger Games is about an oppressive system that's deliberately pushing down on the kids to give them false priorities. They're making the kids and the society focus on their district winning or themselves surviving, depending if you're the audience or the participants, when you should be teaming up together to take down the oppressive regime that's forcing you to do that.
Yeah.
And it's about false hope. Honestly, you could take it all the way to the idea of the American dream being a lie to keep you into a system that keeps you at a disadvantage.
I was thinking more about like Rome, for example, you know, where you basically, you know, kind of feed the people with bread and give them like games at the circus so they kind of forget the crappy lives they're living.
Absolutely.
As long as they have food and, you know, they're entertained in going to the circus every now and then, you know, life is good for them, you know, make them forget the rest of their crappy existence.
Yeah. And there's definitely that layer there, but there's an additional layer as well because the winner of any district of the kids, because each kid is taken from a different district, 2 per district. If the kid from that district wins, the district gets extra supplies of food and whatnot, so it's totally in your interest to root for the kids from your district.
Yeah.
And if your kid from your district is almost about to win and is about to make you not starve for a year and then gets killed at the last minute by a kid from another district, you're going to like that fucking kid from that district. Those guys from that district, goddammit.
Yeah.
And you're acting that way when really your real enemy is the guy on top going like, yeah, kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So there's that double layer. It's a completely different story from the same premise, admittedly. I don't understand how that comparison even came up, other than the superficial similarities.
It's a Japanese movie, so it's probably not really readily available in the US.
Mm.
Somebody just saw that movie and it's like, hey man,
It's alike.
yeah, it's alike. It's kids fighting, and killing each other on an island. Or they're not on the island in the Hunger Games, right?
Well, they're in a playing field that's sort of forest-like, so I can certainly see the similarities on that level.
All right, so they're fighting in the forest, and they're high school kids. So same thing. It's like Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List both happened during World War II. They're not the same movie. You can't just look at this, the surface and say, yeah, it's the same thing. You have to look more in depth and say, well, what is this movie trying to say? What does it mean? What is it achieving? And there you go.
Mm. No, I agree completely, and I agree with you. It's sort of the problem with the rip-off police, because honestly, there's not that many new ideas under the sun. There's only variations of old ideas, and that's the way it should be, because you can't reinvent the wheel every time you build a car. You have to build on the technology that already exists, otherwise you're just building a crappy car.
That's how science works. There's an expression, I think, comes from Newton. It basically says, if I can see farther than you, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. You basically take what other people have done and you build on that. And I can, it's the same way with video games. First-person shooters, for example. You take what's already been done and you try and make it better. Better weapons, faster gameplay, stuff like that. You just keep on improving. So I can totally see that being the same thing with movies. You take one good idea and how about a twist? What if this happened instead? See what would go there. See what would happen. I'm perfectly fine with that. As if there's something new that you add to it, instead of just ripping it off and making it exactly the same except in a different language, that's great.
I like the Hunger Games a lot, like a lot. I'm really looking forward to Catching Fire.
Okay.
And it would have been so sad if Suzanne Collins went like, well, I guess Battle Royale did it first. I guess I'll just not tell my story. That would have been sad.
Yeah. I mean, you saw both of them. Completely different viewing experience. So, I think if you just go on the superficial and you lose something, you see, okay, this has been done already, kind of. I'm going to stop doing it. Well, to quote a South Park, you wouldn't do anything anymore because The Simpsons already did it all.
On that note, if you have any questions, comments, you want to share with us your love of Battle Royale or of Hunger Games, you want to point out some more similarities between the two that maybe we've missed, you can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And if you could like us on Facebook, it would help us very much. It helps us continue to provide quality content for you on a regular basis, get the support for that. So would be very appreciated. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to take the Idiomatic crew onto an island and have them fight to the death so that I can keep only one rider.
Not it.
A little bit crazy. I'm not sure that would help in reality, but that's the premise. We then follow those kids as they try to survive on the island and live out some of their high school drama. You meet a lot of the characters, and almost saying more about the characters beforehand as part of the synopsis, I think, would almost be spoilerish, because you discover them through flashback as they're fighting for survival.
I know, even if it's in Japan, though, you still recognize like the drama that you saw and maybe lived through as well as when you were in high school. So even without them presenting the characters per se, you still kind of recognize situations. They don't have to say as much. You can still kind of say, oh, this is what's happening right there. And, you can totally see what's happening. And I think that's why, you can really relate to that movie. It's like, yeah, I've been there. I've seen that.
Oh, yeah. It's a great representation of what happens in high school.
But I've been there, seen that. Not on an island killing people, but in high school is what we mean.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. The key of that movie is really that it's creating this sort of post-apocalyptic violent context for essentially a high school drama. It really is the same conflicts you would find anywhere else, except that it's played out with bloodshed.
Yeah. They're given weapons and free range to use them, and they have to use them because only one can survive after 3 days. So, they have to pretty much push the violence and, you live the drama to its end.
Yeah, and you have like the Queen Bee, who's the most deadly of them all, which in high school is also true.
Yeah.
You've got the nerd kids ganging up together to sort of beat the game in a different way. I guess I shouldn't spoil how.
No, you should. You should.
And you've got two lovers who don't want to hurt each other. You've got closer in premise than that, because The Running Man, for those of you who don't know, Stephen King's story about a bunch of people stuck in a deadly game like the Hunger Games, but there are convicts.
Yes.
This one actually has children as well.
Indeed.
Japanese movie by the name of Battle Royale.
Yes.
2000, right?
I think it's 2000.
Excellent then.
We'll check afterwards, because that's when we do our homework.
Exactly. We're in a future where the kids have grown terribly disrespectful of the adults in Japan, by which I mean they're still way more polite than North American kids are. Like, that made me laugh a little bit.
Pretty much.
And so the government has instituted a new law, which is the Battle Royale Act, where they'll send a class of children, it's randomly selected, onto an island to play a deadly game where they have to kill one another until only one survives.
Yeah.
You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody! The Hunger Games Part 2 Catching Fire is out in theaters, and you know what that means?
Another episode of Don't F with the Original.
That's right, I'm Dimitri, Editor-in-Chief of Idiomatic and Movie Critic.
And I'm Nicholas, video game correspondent for Idiomatic.com.
Yes, and now you might expect us to review the first Hunger Games, but since everyone's been bitching and whining about the Hunger Games ripping off another movie, we thought, why not take a look at that movie?
Yeah.
See if that's true.
Exactly.
So, for that reason, we are reviewing
The Running Man, right?
Actually, no, because we have one that's actually
A group of, girls that just, cool girls that just hang out together and, they don't worry about anything else. We're just, we're together, we're all good, we're safe, it's fine.
Yeah, and it only takes one misstep for the whole thing to implode, which is also true of real life.
Yeah.
It's the weird thing about dynamics in high school is that we all get along, but we don't trust each other. We feel the hurt really readily,
Yeah, it's true.
You have kids who are in love with other kids who are in love with other kids. You got love triangles and whatnot. Also true of high school. And everything plays out in terms of the order of the death as you would see the social hierarchy of a high school play out in terms of who gets crushed in the social hierarchy of a high school. How somebody falls and loses status, loses focus, and all of that in the same.
Is that what the